JBL proudly presents Guitar Center Sessions.
Hi, I'm Nick Harcourt. This is Guitar Center Sessions. Please welcome our guest, Slash, featuring Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators.
Your promise to a wealthy man. Take a look, what are you seeing? Is that a news or wedding band? Or should I go to see a healer? Twitching in my hands. Nerves twitching in my hands. God help me rid this feeling, 'cause I'm falling all to pieces and I can't get out of bed. Beggars and hangers on try to take you from me. Someone with a Bible in his pocket clouding everything you see. Beggars and hangers on that try to step it away. Bury your soul in the winter, 'cause the end is here to stay. And I can't get out of bed. I was wrong, I don't need you. It seems reckless and so damn unfair. It's better days are far behind me. I guess that's another cross that I'll have to bear. to take this book and lock it up inside. And maybe I'm locked down, but I'm not beaten, no. And like anything, we were born to die. That's right. Beggars and hangers on try to take you from me. Sound on with a bomber when his pocket clouding everything you see. Beggars and hangers on that try to chip it away. Bury your soul in the river 'cause the end is here to stay. Oh, yeah. Let's see the sense of my dog. How can I feed my mom?
I'm Nick Harcourt. We're here with Slash. You're probably one of the most recognized guitar players in the world. What was it about music that first got you?
That's a good question. I mean, when I was a kid, I was always around a lot of what you can consider contemporary music, rock and roll, when I was a little guy, and was always just a huge fan of music. And when I was 15 years old, or 14 years old actually, I picked up the guitar. And it was like all those years, that whole 14 years of listening to all these different types of music growing up, all of a sudden was like, it was like I stumbled on something that I was supposed to do.
Well, what was the stuff that you were listening to? What was the stuff you remember that made an impact on you?
My parents were rock people. There's like, when I was really little, I remember the Stones, I remember the Yardbirds, and I remember the Kinks, and I remember the Beatles, and all the stuff that my dad and his brothers were listening to in England, right? And then when I moved to Los Angeles, it was a whole bunch of other stuff. It was like, the Doors were happening at that time, and Hendrix was going on, and so Cream, like all these really great bands. And as time went, there was Zeppelin, there was Black Sabbath, there was I like all kinds of folk music. Of course, Dylan was a huge thing during my childhood. But my mom was pretty eclectic, so she turned me on to Phoebe Snow and Chaka Khan and David Bowie and but there was just tons of music in my house. My dad listened to a lot of classical music on top of all the rock stuff. And so I just ingested all this without really giving it much thought, but I definitely knew what I liked, and I definitely knew what I didn't like. And when I picked up the guitar, it was like a eureka moment. It was like all this stuff that I didn't know that I wanted to do, all of a sudden there was this tool to be able to express myself with it.
So you had this diverse lineup of music that was infiltrating your brain, and it's interesting to me as well to think that you got the British side of it as well as the American side of it because of your dad coming from England. When you picked up that first guitar, how did that come about? Did you ask for one? Did you go buy one?
More or less. Steve Adler, who was my bandmate in Guns N' Roses from the beginning, he and I met when we were 13, 14, and he had an electric guitar and a little amp and a little piece of stereo that he used to crank Kiss records and bang on his guitar.
Right.
And he was just over the top about it. It was like, the happiest I'd ever seen him was when he was just, but I mean, he didn't know how to play it. He'd just bang on it. And so we had that sort of, fantasy of starting a band, And I thought, well, I'll play bass. It just seemed like the logical thing to do. But I went to a local music store right on Fairfax in Santa Monica, a music school rather, and went in there without an instrument. And in the course of the conversation with the guitar teacher, he had a guitar and he started playing, I think it was Sunshine of Your Love. And I was like, that's what I want to do, because he was playing the lead part. And he goes, well, that's not bass, that's electric guitar. And I really was sort of ignorant. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't really know what it meant. And so I went home and I asked my grandmother, I was staying with her at the time, I said, do we have a guitar anywhere? And it turns out that we had one hidden away in the closet that I never knew was there. So she gave me that guitar, and it was a flamenco Spanish, guitar, but it only had one string on it. So I learned all kinds of riffs on that one string.
Wow.
And then finally, through that same guitar teacher, I learned how to put the other 5 strings on it. And he gave me some great sort of rock lessons, like if there'd be something that I wanted to learn, and he would learn it off the record and teach it to me. And I was like, well, after a while, I was like, well, I can do that. And so I just took off from there.
Woke up this morning all alone. I got a ringing in my head. I couldn't take it anymore today. She left me here for dead. Oh, Don't come as no surprise. I should have known it from the start. The lights are faded and I can't deny this place ain't got no heart. Oh, if you can't hear me tonight, if you can't hear me tonight, you'll have to carry me back from Cali. I'm tired and broken and I lost my way. You'll have to carry me back to where I belong. You'll have to carry me back from Cali. I don't want money, I don't need the fame. You'll have to carry me back to where I belong. I got to leave this angel city, but I can't do it by myself. So if you please, mama, can you say amen before I blow this life to hell? Mama grabbed me by the feet and just drag me home. You'll have to carry me back from Cali. I don't think everything I'm to blame. You'll have to carry me back to where I belong. You'll have to carry me back from Cali, the angel city where the devils play. You'll have to carry me back to where I belong. Oh, if you can hear me tonight, 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 I've lost my way, I'm so alone, and all I want is to come home.
You mentioned some bands like Zeppelin and Cream and the Yardbirds and iconic guitar players, obviously in those bands with their own sound, tone. Is that something that you spent time developing?
Like with everything else, I didn't necessarily know about. I didn't have any friends that were guitar players, and obviously all my heroes were completely unreachable. So I sort of put my own idea of how it all worked, together in my head, and I just experimented with stuff. And I remember discovering a sound that I dug, and it was a little Fender Princeton and that Les Paul copy and a little MXR distortion box. And I remember that feeling of getting that working and going, oh, and that was like definitely, I had in my mind an idea of where I wanted it to go. I just never gave it that much thought. But when I sort of stumbled on it, I was like,
arrived.
There I am, yeah. And I think I've been sort of trying to improve on that ever since. I haven't really wanted to change it so much, and I've been playing the same kind of guitar. I think I always aspired to get a Marshall, because that to me, and always has been, a certain kind of sound that you can't get out of any other amp. And I've just been working with those same tools, just trying to get better at it ever since, ever since I started.
Talked about hearing it in your head. How cerebral is your playing?
It's part of it's totally organic, that doesn't have any real thought at all. And then there's another part of it that's just constant notes and ideas and melodies or whatnot that are swimming around all the time. So I always have to keep the guitar close by, because they come and go quickly,
Who would you say has influenced you the most?
There's a lot of guys that are all responsible for this. It was definitely, Eric Clapton back in the Creep days, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, AC/DC, B.B. King, Albert King. Those are like two of my favorite lead blues guitarists.
I was going to say, you're talking about a lot of blues guitarists.
They're all basically blues guys. Chuck Berry was one of them, Keith Richards and Mick Taylor and Ron Wood, that whole Stones thing. Even Brian Jones, for that matter. So, just everybody that was any good, Jeff Beck's a big one, that I grew up listening to, are still pretty much the best sort of rock and roll lead guitar players. There's more. I could go on for days with this, but they all had a lot to do with turning me on to this, and,
It's been a long year since you've been gone. I've been alone here, I've grown old. I fall to pieces, I'm falling. I fell to pieces and I'm still falling. Every time I'm falling down, all alone I fall to pieces. I keep a journal of memories. I'm feeling lonely, I can't breathe. I fell to pieces, I'm falling. I fell to pieces and I'm still falling. Every time I'm falling down, all alone I fall to there's more to go. Well, the memories I'm waiting. And will I find you? And will I find you? I'm falling down. I'm falling down. Every time I'm falling down, all alone I fall to pieces. Every time I'm falling down, all alone I fall to pieces.
Of course, a significant part of your story is Guns N' Roses, and I'm sure you've talked about it many, many times. But can you take us back to what was going on